I know it was an original short film that turned you onto the project. What was it about this short that really got you going and got you interested?
Well, the fact that I really admired the filmmaking in the short, but I also admired the fact that it was scary, both. You know, and sometimes you get one or the other. You know, you get a guy that has a lot to say or an interesting premise, but is badly done, and sometimes you get something very polished but very little to say. But with Andy and the short, immediately you felt a storyteller. You know, a guy that was a genuine voice in the genre. You know?
Yeah. How many of these shorts are you watching a year? Because I know you always seem to be finding new talent.
I watch maybe 60 a year. Yeah.
Wow.
And you know, it's a good average.
Is there a trend where there is style over substance, as you mentioned? Like, is that something you see a lot of?
Yes. You see it a lot because the more sophisticated the tools get in, now everybody can generate a matte, everybody can generate an animated 3D piece, you know.
Right.
And the cameras are getting smaller, cheaper, better, you know.
Yeah.
And you can almost, not really, but almost shoot a short on your cell phone.
Yeah.
And with a little bit of finesse, you can make it look okay.
Yeah.
But I think that what is getting harder and harder is to make that cohesive with what you're trying to tell. And so with Andy, there was a lot of style, but the style was very substantial. Yeah. It was in favor of what he was trying to say.
Right, yeah. In terms of your input, I understand that you were on the set in Toronto. I think you were shooting Pacific Rim at the same time.
Yeah.
Was that just good fortune that it worked out that way?
No, the studio, when the studio gave us the final piece of financing, they told me, we're doing it only if you, I saw Donna Langley and Adam, and Donna said to me, I'll do it only if you guarantee me you'll be there, you'll be available, you'll be consulting, you'll be giving your opinion level. And I knew the only way we could do it was to actually have the offices of Mama down the corridor from Pacific Rim, having them in our next door set, and to have Mama start so I could overlap with with half of the weeks of shooting.
Right.
So they started when I was in pre-production with Pacific Rim, sort of soft pre-production. So I was able to be with him during the storyboarding, budgeting. Obviously, I was in the casting, wardrobe tests, makeup tests, actors tests, all that. And then I was able to go and spend the mornings with him, going through the storyboards, walking the day on the set.
Okay.
And then finally, after a while, you know, going to the editing room every day, obviously seeing the dailies. And then when Pacific Rim started shooting, Mama was ending.
Okay.
And we knew everything was good.
Right. Okay.
So I edited with them on the weekends. In Pacific Rim, I would shoot Monday through Friday and edit with them on the weekend. And then I was with them on the rest of the process.
Wow.
Color correction, the final mix, and
Okay.
so forth. Yeah.
That's really quite involved.
Yeah, but with knowing that you are the coach and not the football player, you know.
Right.
Andy is still the quarterback.
Sure. Okay. And I suppose you were running defense to continue the football metaphor between him and the studio, you being a veteran to the process. And
you know, I was amazed and happy. My relationship with Universal is really, really candid and great, and it has been for many years now. I mean, we work together now for 6-7 years, and they were super supportive.
Yeah.
I was really amazed because the ending of the movie is very unusual.
Mm.
We went for an ending that we thought we were going to have a big fight.
Yeah.
Both. We were like, man, do you think they really read it? Do you think they really... And then we showed them the movie and they loved it.
Yeah.
So it was pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, not to give away the ending, but it is definitely a different sort of ending.
Yeah, it's quite shocking.
So that was never an issue.
No, you know, everybody was. We were really prepared. We sharpened the knives, we loaded the guns, and went to the OK Corral, and we had a nice breakfast.
Now, do you see Mama as? I mean, she feels to me that. I mean, obviously she's the villain of the piece, but she's a victim
Yes.
as well, which is sort of like the great horror monsters,
Yes.
like Frankenstein
Yeah.
and the Wolfman and these guys.
Well, I knew very much that we needed to make her a character before the movie ended, because for the ending to work, you need to have a certain empathy and sympathy for her. So you need to transition into her story, basically, so that at the end you actually want her, along with everybody else, to do well,
Right.
to fare well, you know.
Yeah.
So Andy did a remarkable job at that, because towards the end of the movie, Mama is like a relentless force until the end of the movie, where she actually understands
Right.
something.
Right.
And I thought that was very good.
Yeah. She's sort of a force of nature, and then
Yeah.
there's this catalyst where.
Yeah, the ending. I mean, we've done this now several times. We did it on the orphanage,
Mhm.
where it's a very effective horror movie, but then at the end, it has this sort of poetry and beauty.
Yeah.
And we did it on Pan's Labyrinth to a different genre, but I've never done it in an American movie, in a studio movie, and the ending was quite a tricky thing, and it's a first film.
Yeah.
And the way Andy pulls off the girls acting, the tone of the movie, the intensity of the scares is really remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, because it does feel like kind of almost a hybrid between everyone always talks about your Hollywood movies and then your more independent Spanish language films. And this feels like sort of a merging of those two styles in a way.
Well, when we were starting, the first thing I said as producer, I sat down with Andy and Barbara and I said, look, I'll be happy to produce it in Spanish for X amount of money in Barcelona, and you'll get all the freedom you need. Or we can produce it under the studio system. There's going to be a lot more politics. I'll be the buffer. I'll be your defender or your bodyguard, but there's still going to be more complexity to it. And Andy chose, without doubting it for a second, he said, I want to do it in English as a co-production.
Okay, yeah. I guess ultimately more people are likely to see the film under those circumstances.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, one of the great, not heartaches, but one of the great quests of my life, for example, is I constantly want to have to turn people towards Devil's Backbone.
Yeah.
Which is my favorite movie I've done, and I keep whenever people say hi, how are you? I love Pan's Labyrinth. I think you should watch that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I've recommended it to a few people.
Yeah, because it's in Spanish. It was distributed very very small distribution. I think it was released in a couple dozen prints.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. It was not exactly a wide release in America.
And yet it might not have gotten made through the traditional Hollywood
Correct.
system, right? So,
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's but Andy was reacting to, I want the movie to be seen by as many people as possible.
Yeah, and also I'm forgive me if I'm wrong, but I would think Guillermo del Toro shows up, he's ready to produce my movie, this is my shot.
Yeah, I suppose there's some of that.
Yeah, so how influential are fairy tales on your work? Because like
Very.
yeah, I mean this Pan's Labyrinth, these films and this
Cowboy 2.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So do you have a memory of reading them as a kid and being freaked out by them? And
I read them now. I mean, I read them all the time. I think they are an instrumental thing for me to understand the horror genre. In a way, I need the fairy tale element to it, because I'm not a guy that is attracted to just gore or. I mean, I like brutality. I love moments of brutality, but I don't like sort of the gore fests. I liked them when I was younger.
yeah.
But I think I find it less interesting when there's no story behind.
You can only see so many pig entrails, right? So, Crimson Peak, the word was that's part of your next directing job?
No, absolutely.
It is, okay. So, shooting in about a year, I guess.
Yes.
So, Now that's a ghost story as well.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid doing the same thing?
I mean, there are as many ways of doing a ghost story as there are ways of doing any other genre or storytelling. You know, like I can tell you, look, I'm going to do a comedy about the infidelity, and that can be Preston Sturges, or it can be Woody Allen, or it can be the Farrelly brothers.
Right.
I mean,
Sure.
There's no comparison. So, you know, Crimson Peak is a completely different proposition. Obviously, the tenets of a horror story and a ghost story, many of them are going to remain the same. The house, the corridors, you're going to have to play, in order to play a tango and make it recognizable as a tango, you need a certain tempo.
Right.
You know, so
Sure.
it's inevitable. And that's, but then within that you find originality.